7:40. You are watching and listening to Breakfast with Ellie and Paul. We are sitting in for Stephen and Anne today, and we are live across the UK on your TV and your radio.
Yeah, let's have a look at the front pages this morning that you are waking up to, starting with the Sunday Times, which claims the NHS covered up an ambulance deaths scandal involving alleged mistakes by paramedics in the northeast of England.
The Observer leads on, PM to sacrifice top official over Partygate to save himself. The paper says that Boris Johnson is expected to scapegoat the head of the civil service, Simon Case, when the Sue Gray report is released.
Front page of the Sunday Express reports on plans to make every pupil in England eligible for one-to-one tuition to make sure help is provided to everyone in need.
The Mail on Sunday leads with asylum seekers supposedly abandoning their attempts to stay in the UK for fear of being sent to Rwanda.
An apparent attack on unions by the Tories is detailed in the Sunday Telegraph.
And the Sunday Mirror, there is reports that Colleen Rooney has told a friend she now thinks she will be vindicated in the Wagatha Christie trial. Well, it is time to go through the papers now. We're going to be touching on that Wagatha Christie story a little bit later. But joining us here in the studio is Pete Price, the broadcaster, and Emma Burnell, the political consultant. Got it right that time. Good morning to you. Welcome, both of you. Pete, should we start with you? Let's start with this headline in the Sunday Telegraph. Tories in threat to torpedo unions. That's what we're talking about in the first newspaper round. But it's also in the Express, isn't it? Rail strikes threatening supply chains, because that's the impact, isn't it?
It's really sad, this. It says urgent plans to deal with the potential biggest rail strike in modern history. The government, which are running Network Rail, want to overhaul the sector so the taxpayers can get rid of it. They want to change the system, and nobody's going to win if there's a strike. Now, what upsets me about this is we have just come through the most terrible time in people's lives with a pandemic. The trains ran, it was subsidised, it was kept going, it was kept alive. Right now, we need to put this country back on its even keel to get some money into the pot. So we need all the help we can get. The last time we need, and the last thing we need, is a rail strike. The last thing we need is any problems like this, because we've got to try and get money back. Nobody was complaining when there was a pandemic and they were all getting furloughed. By the way, I was one of the 5.5 million that never got a single penny. Nobody helped me at all. But that's another story. But we need to get the country back on track, and we don't need a rail strike, especially when they're planning it now, when there's going to be a jubilee and when there's going to be all this time that we can put money back into the pubs, back into...
Yeah, from the union's point of view, though, that's the ideal time to do it, because it's such a big threat then that brings the government to the table, and they may not go through with it, but it means that the government has to listen to them, and the unions are just doing their jobs at the end of the day. I mean, they're part of the reason they're going on strike is over pay freezes, and in this cost of living crisis, they're trying to do the best for their members.
Yeah, but then the cost of living crisis is never going to end, because it's going to go higher, because the prices will be then put on. So that money they've got will be lost. Completely lost. We've got to be sensible. We're living in a society now that is, I'm all right, Jack. And it's not. It used to be a communal feel to the country, and now it's lost it. Or do you not agree?
Well, I think that if what you want is a really strong example of communal feel, then there really isn't anything that exemplifies that more, actually, than unionism, which is all about collective bargaining. Collective, it being the key word there. Yes, having rail strikes this summer will be very difficult. That's why it's a bargaining tool. You know how to stop that? Pay people what they deserve. I mean, it really isn't that hard.
So where's the money come from?
Yeah,
well, the money comes from the same...
How easy is it to pay everyone
on the day that the Sunday Times rich list comes out, maybe we could talk about taxing some of those people in order to make sure that those people who did keep the country going and worked really hard don't get a pay rise so far under the cost of inflation that they will be losing money hand over fist. The people at the bottom and the people who work hard, who really really deserve to come out of this pandemic with a new sense of value and recognition.
Do the people on the Sunday Times list, do they work hard?
Some of them probably do, some of them probably don't. Most of them make their money off of land, as far as I can tell, which doesn't seem to involve them actually hoeing it.
An awful lot of them will create jobs. A lot of them will have worked hard.
And pay tax.
And pay tax.
Some tax. None of them don't have an accountant that doesn't do quite a lot of work to stop them paying as much tax as possible.
Yeah, it's getting feisty in here on Sunday morning. It's only 7:45, but do let us know whether you agree with what's going on here this morning. GBNEWS at gbnews.uk. Emma, the Aussie election, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The Labour Party have swept the board, as far as I can tell. Really quite significant win in over the confusingly named for us in the UK Liberal Party, which is actually their equivalent of our Tory party, very right-wing Tory party, in fact. And it seems that climate change has been a really key issue. I've been to Australia. I was actually lucky enough to go to Australia just before lockdowns hit, so it was I got away. And climate is everywhere in Australia because you can feel it there. I mean, you can feel it on your skin. So I think it's become an issue that was once quite divisive is actually swung very much into a consensus. And I think the Liberal Party found themselves very much out of step with the country on that.
Yeah. Seismic shift in Australia from right to left. What impact, if any, do you think it will have on the UK and our relationship with Australia?
I don't suppose that diplomatically it will change all that much. We're used to everyone dealing with different internal politics, and that's not how diplomacy works. There may be issues because obviously Australia has the fact of the monarchy has long been a contentious issue. That may then come back to the fore.
And he's a Republican, isn't he?
He is indeed a Republican.
He's a Republican, the new Prime Minister.
The other thing that's great too, it's brought back the argument and discussion about everyone having to vote. In a country, which I think is great, and I love the picture they've used of the guy in the bathing costume with his child going to vote. But it's a serious issue.
Yeah.
You know, should we all have to vote? Because I'm sick of people saying to me on my radio show, "I'm not going to vote. Who do you vote for?" Well, do some research. Try and find out what's going on.
But just make sure we legislate so people don't vote in speedos.
I don't have a problem as a gay man. I don't have a problem with that.
Other swimming costumes are available.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll show you the photo in question in case you're a bit confused about this is it. This guy here voting. Jim Finn, his name is.
There you go.
He's casting his vote at Bondi Beach with his daughter.
Terrific.
There's a wonderful photo of me from that time on Bondi Beach, bright red.
Right, Pete, I need to ask you about this Agatha Christie story, which is leading the Sunday Mirror. I've been covering this the past 2 weeks down at the Royal Courts of Justice. It has been a whirlwind, let's say that much, but you are a friend of Colleen.
I am a friend of Colleen.
What do you make of this
I'm very cross about this story because it says
it
says in the inside one of her friends has said she's home and dry, basically. Well, the whole court case was about one of her friends supposedly talking about her. So where they get this quote from, one of her friends, she's home and dry, she is not that type of person. She's a private person. She would not have said that to somebody close to her. And the people around her, she's kept the gang that she's grown up with. They are her friends. Nobody gets in. She took a long time to trust me as a broadcaster, and I did her 21st. I am incredibly fond of them both. I think it's disgraceful, the money that's been wasted on this. Absolutely disgraceful.
I mean, does it matter anyway? Because effectively she's saying to her friend, "I'm confident with one."
Yeah, but
is that a big deal?
I can't believe one of her close friends that she would have said it to, if she said it to anyone, would go to the papers. It makes a nonsense of the whole story because Vardy's in there saying, you know, I didn't break your confidence, and now we're being told on the front page of a paper that she's told, "Oh, I've won." Yeah, get in there. It's absolutely, I think it's disgraceful.
Yeah, and it was an absolute ordeal for them. Like you say, I think it was £3 million that was spent on this court case to get it to court. But they were there every single day for 6 days. Yeah. Wayne was sat by Colleen the whole time, and the first thing they actually said, which I thought was a good way to open actually, was to say, we don't want to be here.
No.
It's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, but we're here because we're being sued. We've got to be. But I did think actually she held herself with
there was an article in one of the papers, I won't mention the writer, I won't mention the paper because I was so angry, slagging Wayne off the way he looked. What has that got to do with a court case? They were easy targets. They met, they fell in love as young people, they fell in love. She never asked for any of what she got, and they hounded her from as a schoolgirl. I watched it all, and then it grew and grew and grew. He is an unbelievable footballer with a God-given talent, and they just didn't leave them alone. And how they came through it, I will never know. And we hear that he separated with her for a while, but that was private. That's how private she was.
Yeah, they are very, very private people. How do you think it's going to go, Vardy, Rooney?
I hope that Colleen wins. I really do hope she wins. I thought she showed herself to be who she is.
Pete, Emma, thank you so much for joining us. We'll have more from them in the next hour. As ever, get involved with the conversation, gbviews@gbnews.uk.